You ever start a game thinking, I'll just play for an hour, and next thing you know, it's 2 AM and your legs are numb? Yeah, some games just pull you in so hard that you completely lose track of time. Whether you're grinding for better gear, exploring every corner, or just vibing with the side quests, these games are massive time sinks. So if you're looking for something to get lost in for weeks or even months, here are 20 massive single-player games that'll glue you to your screen. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. If you're looking for a game that will easily keep you hooked for over 100 hours, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a no-brainer. This sequel doesn't just build on the foundation of Remake, it massively expands it in almost every way. The world is larger, the combat is deeper, and the amount of content packed into the game is absolutely staggering. Right from the start, Rebirth makes it clear that it's aiming for epic scale. The game's semi-open world design lets you freely explore large, detailed regions filled with side quests, hidden bosses, and lore-rich discoveries. Whether you're tracking down rare materia, hunting challenging monsters, or simply wandering off the beaten path, you'll constantly find yourself distracted by new activities. Even simple detours like chocobo racing or mini-games will have you burning through hours without realizing it. The combat system is another area where Rebirth shines. It blends real-time action with tactical strategy, creating battles that feel cinematic but still require careful planning. The addition of tag team synergy abilities gives combat even more depth, making it feel dynamic and rewarding. Each character has their own playstyle, and learning to perfectly time team-up attacks becomes incredibly satisfying, especially in the late-game encounter. But what really makes Final Fantasy VII Rebirth such a massive time sink is the sheer amount of side content. The game is packed with optional bosses, weapon upgrades, and hidden materia that will have you constantly backtracking and experimenting with new builds. And if you're the kind of player who likes to fully immerse yourself in the world, you'll spend countless hours completing side missions, participating in mini-games, and exploring every corner of the map. The story itself is also much larger and more ambitious than Remake. It takes deeper narrative detours, fleshing out characters, and adding entirely new arcs. The emotional moments hit harder, and the expanded character development makes you genuinely care about the cast, whether it's Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, or even the more minor characters. For players who want to experience everything Rebirth has to offer, including all the side content, secret bosses, and post-game challenges, you're easily looking at 100 and 150 plus hours of gameplay. And the best part, the game stays consistently engaging throughout. The mix of exploration, combat, and character moments makes it incredibly easy to lose track of time. If you're after a massive single-player experience with a ton of depth, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will completely consume your free time, and you'll be glad it did. Metaphor ReFantazio. Metaphor it's made by the same team behind Persona, so you already know it's gonna be deep, stylish, and kinda weird in a good way. But unlike Persona, which sticks to modern-day Japan, this one throws you into a full-on fantasy world packed with magic, politics, and tons of crazy stuff going on. Now, the combat here is what makes it super addicting. It's kind of like turn-based fighting, but with a twist. You don't just sit there taking turns like you're playing a board game. The battles feel faster and way more interactive. You'll be chaining attacks, building combos, and pulling off flashy moves that make you feel like a genius when they land. Plus, the game gives you tons of flexibility with your character builds. Want to be a sword-swinging tank with magic powers? Go for it. Prefer sniping enemies from a distance like a sneaky coward? You can do that too. The game basically says go nuts with your playstyle. But here's where it really sucks you in, the world itself. It's massive and packed with secrets, so even if you're just planning to follow the main story, you'll constantly get distracted. One minute you're on a serious quest, and the next you're wandering into a random cave, battling some crazy hidden boss, or finding loot that makes you feel like you cheated the game. And it doesn't just look pretty, every place you explore feels alive, with towns full of people actually doing stuff and environments that make you want to stop and just look around. And oh man, the social system is where you'll lose even more hours. It's kind of like in Persona, where you build relationships with your companions, but it feels way more connected to the game. The more you bond with your party members, the stronger they become in battle. Plus, the dialogue is actually fun and believable, not just a bunch of boring RPG filler. You'll have real conversations, learn about their backstories, and sometimes they'll even roast you a little, which makes them feel more like actual people. But here's the thing, even when you're not doing story missions, the game constantly gives you stuff to do. You'll spend hours upgrading your gear, fine-tuning your skills, and chasing after rare loot. You might think, oh, I'll just explore this one area, and boom, suddenly it's 3 hours later and you're still messing around. It's that kind of game. If you're planning to do everything, and I mean everything, you're easily looking at 120, 150 plus hours of gameplay, and somehow it never feels like a grind. Between the exploration, combat, and character building, the game keeps giving you new reasons to keep playing, and before you know it, you've basically moved into this world.
I will not let you die in vain.
Ghost of Tsushima. There aren't many games that make you stop mid-quest just to stare at the scenery, but Ghost of Tsushima does. It's the kind of game where you'll be riding through a forest of golden leaves or across a misty shoreline and suddenly forget you're supposed to be saving your homeland. The world is just that breathtaking. But don't let the pretty flowers fool you, this game will keep you busy for well over 100 hours if you want to see everything. What makes Tsushima so addictive isn't just the gorgeous open world, though it's how alive it feels. You're constantly stumbling onto hidden shrines, freeing villages from Mongol invaders, or following foxes to secret charms. And even though the map is massive, it never feels empty. Every corner has something worth exploring, whether it's a piece of lore, a duel against a wandering swordsman, or a scenic cliff you'll spend way too long admiring. And then there's the combat, which is where the game really gets its hooks into you. It's sharp, stylish, and incredibly satisfying. The duels feel like something straight out of a samurai film, with Jin and his enemies circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When you time a perfect parry and cut your opponent down in one clean slash, you'll feel like a legend, and the stance system adds real depth, forcing you to switch fighting styles on the fly based on your enemy. It keeps the combat fresh and tactical, even 50 hours in. But where Tsushima really eats up your time is in its side content. You'll swear you're only gonna do the main story, but before you know it, you're chasing foxes, tracking down haikus, and wiping out every Mongol camp on the island. Then there's the Iki Island expansion, which adds a new region with tougher enemies, more side quests, and a storyline that actually expands Jin's character. Fallout 4.
We got a dog, baby. I love her so.
You don't just play Fallout 4, you basically move into it. This game is so massive and packed with content that it'll swallow your free time whole without you even noticing. One minute you're following the main story, trying to find your kidnapped son, and the next thing you know, you've spent 3 hours building a settlement and still haven't made it past the second quest. What makes Fallout 4 so dangerously time-consuming is the sheer amount of freedom and distractions it throws at you. You'll start by simply wandering around the wasteland, but then you'll spot a creepy abandoned building and just have to see what's inside. Next thing you know, you're looting raider camps, hacking terminals, and unlocking secret vaults filled with crazy lore. And that's just you getting sidetracked. The actual main game is massive on its own, with a long, branching story that changes based on your choices. The combat and progression are also ridiculously addicting. The VATC system, which lets you freeze time and target specific body parts, makes every fight feel cinematic and strategic, even when you're just gunning down random bandits. But the real fun comes from building your character. Whether you want to be a stealthy sniper, power armor tank, or a smooth-talking con artist, the perk system lets you create wildly different playstyles, making every run feel unique.
Do I look like I can afford that?
All right, $250.
And then there's the settlement building, which is basically a whole game on its own. You can construct houses, defenses, and entire thriving communities out of the random junk you find. What starts as you placing a couple of turrets turns into you designing a fully functioning town with shops, farms, and defenses. And the best part, you'll spend hours doing it even though you were supposed to be saving the world. The DLCs make the game even bigger. Far Harbor adds a massive fog-covered island with its own creepy mystery, while Nuka World throws you into a lawless theme park run by raiders, which feels like a game within a game. Even the Workshop DLCs add new building mechanics and gadgets, giving settlement builders even more ways to lose track of time. Death Stranding Director's Cut. Death Stranding isn't just a game, it's an experience, and once it pulls you in, you'll completely lose track of time. What starts as a slow, lonely journey across a ruined America slowly turns into one of the most gripping and emotional adventures you'll ever play. But here's the thing, it's not just about the story, the world itself is so immersive that you'll easily spend over 100 hours exploring it, building stuff, and just existing in it. Now, if you've only heard about Death Stranding, you might be thinking, wait, isn't that the walking simulator game? And yeah, there's a lot of walking, but what makes it so strangely addictive is how much depth and strategy there is to something as simple as crossing the landscape. You'll be hauling massive cargo, trying to keep your balance, and figuring out the best routes through rivers, rocky slopes, and snow-covered mountains. And just when you start getting comfortable, the game throws in Timefall Rain, which rapidly ages everything it touches, or BTs, these creepy ghost-like creatures that turn every delivery into a fight for survival. But what really hooks you is the online system. You'll be building roads, bridges, and safe houses, but here's the twist, you're not doing it alone. Other players' structures pop into your world and you'll be using their ladders and zip lines while they use yours. It creates this quiet but powerful sense of connection, which makes every delivery feel more meaningful. Plus, getting likes from other players for your contributions is weirdly satisfying, making you want to build even more. The director's cut takes things even further. It adds new missions, extra tools, and more customization options, making the game feel even more fleshed out. The cargo catapult lets you launch your deliveries across large distances, while the buddy bot helps you carry extra gear or even gives you a ride when you're feeling lazy, and the racing circuit lets you take a break from walking and actually race around in vehicles because why not? But here's where the time really melts away, the world itself. It's stunningly atmospheric with rolling hills, foggy forests, and jagged mountains that make you stop just to admire the view. The rain-soaked roads, flowing rivers, and glowing golden sunsets make the entire game feel like you're walking through a painting, and the soundtrack, it hits you right in the soul. You'll be climbing a lonely ridge and suddenly a haunting song by Low Roar starts playing, making the whole thing feel almost too real. If you're the kind of player who likes to explore every inch of a world, Death Stranding will own your free time. You'll obsess over building the perfect network of zip lines and roads, clearing every area of BTs, and finding every hidden delivery. A completionist run can easily stretch past 120 and 150 hours, especially with the extra content in the director's cut. So, if you're ready for a slow burn, deeply atmospheric adventure that will consume your nights with its addictive exploration and emotional storytelling, Death Stranding director's cut is absolutely worth it. Just don't be surprised if you start thinking about optimal delivery routes in real life after playing for too long. Halo: The Master Chief Collection. Halo: The Master Chief Collection is basically an entire universe in one package. It's not just one game, it's 6 full Halo campaigns, along with a massive multiplayer mode that could easily swallow your free time for weeks or months. Whether you're reliving the classic campaigns, exploring the deep lore, or getting destroyed in PvP by players who've been sweating since 2001, this collection has enough content to keep you hooked forever. First off, the campaigns alone will eat up dozens of hours, especially if you're playing through them on heroic or legendary difficulty. You've got Halo Combat Evolved, which still holds up with its open-ended level design and sci-fi mystery vibes. Then there's Halo 2, which is an absolute masterpiece of storytelling with its dual protagonist setup and darker tone. Halo 3 ramps things up with its cinematic action and epic finale, while Halo 4 brings a more emotional, character-driven story that hits surprisingly hard. And then you've got Reach and ODST, both of which offer fantastic side stories with more grounded, human perspectives that make the Halo universe feel even richer. And if you're a completionist, this game is basically designed to ruin your productivity. There are hundreds of achievements, skulls to find, and terminals that flesh out the deep Halo lore. You'll end up replaying levels to find hidden collectibles, trying to beat missions under par time, or going for those brutal, lazo, legendary all skulls on runs, which will drive you insane but somehow keep you coming back. The mod support adds even more replay value. You can tweak the game to your liking, add new campaigns, or mess around with fan-made mods that completely transform the experience. The MCC basically gives you infinite ways to play, whether you want to relive the original campaigns, battle it out in multiplayer, or mess around with custom game insanity. If you're the type of player who wants to do everything, you're easily looking at 150 plus hours of gameplay here. The campaigns alone could take 60 to 80 hours if you do them all on higher difficulty. difficulties, and the multiplayer could keep you going for years. Even after you finish the story, you'll probably keep coming back just to blast through the multiplayer maps with friends, or get lost in the modding community's endless creations. Persona 3 Reload.
Come, Persona!
Persona 3 Reload isn't just a game, it's an entire second life. Once you dive into it, you'll lose track of time completely, spending dozens of hours balancing dungeon crawling, socializing, and just vibing in its moody, stylish world. Whether you're fighting shadows in the midnight hour, hanging out with your classmates, or just trying to get through midterms, the game constantly pulls you into its loop, and suddenly, you've sunk over 100 hours without even noticing. At its core, Persona 3 Reload is a JRPG mixed with a life simulator, and both parts are equally addicting. During the day, you'll be going to school, building friendships, and boosting your social stats. You'll spend time with different characters like your loyal dorm mates, eccentric classmates, and people you randomly meet around town. Each bond you build isn't just for fun, it unlocks new persona fusions and makes your character stronger in combat. But here's the thing, the characters are so well written that you'll actually get attached to them. You'll want to see every side story, not because you need the bonus stats, but because you genuinely care about their lives. And then, at night, everything takes a darker turn. You'll enter Tartarus, this massive, ever-changing tower filled with creepy monsters, haunting music, and a strange, dreamlike atmosphere. The combat is classic turn-based JRPG action, but it's got a ton of depth. You'll switch between different personas, each with their own elemental powers and abilities, while exploiting enemy weaknesses to chain together devastating combos. The more you play, the more strategic and addictive the combat becomes. But what really makes Persona 3 Reload such a time sink is the constant sense of progression. You're always leveling up your personas, unlocking new abilities, and customizing your party. Even outside of combat, you'll be working on your social stats like charm, courage, and academics, so you can unlock even more dialogue options and relationship events. There's always something to improve, unlock, or experience, which makes it impossible to put down. And while the original Persona 3 was already a masterpiece, Reload takes everything to the next level. The visuals have been completely overhauled, making the world look far more vibrant and detailed, while the music has been re-recorded, giving the game a fresh yet familiar vibe. The expanded voice acting and extra story scenes also make the characters feel more fleshed out, pulling you even deeper into the story. But here's the kicker, if you're aiming for a completionist run, you're easily looking at 130, 150 plus hours. Between maxing out all social links, fully exploring Tartarus, completing side quests, and fusing every persona, the game constantly gives you reasons to keep playing. Even when you finish the main story, you'll probably start a new game plus just to experience the alternate social link outcomes and different choices.
Only one left.
You showed them Aragaki-senpai?
Sure.
That's 2 for 1!
Persona!
That's a win for the team!
Let's get going.
Good job, everyone!
Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2 is the kind of game where you'll jump in for a quick session and suddenly realize half the day is gone. It's not just because of the fun shooting and wild loot, but because the game is constantly giving you reasons to keep going. Whether it's a new side quest, a better gun drop, or just some dumb, hilarious dialogue, you'll always find yourself thinking, hey, I'll do one more thing, and then somehow lose 3 hours. The gunplay is easily the biggest hook. The game throws ridiculous amounts of loot at you, and it never gets boring because the weapons are genuinely creative. You'll find acid-spitting shotguns, snipers that set people on fire, and pistols that explode when you reload them. Even after dozens of hours, you'll still get excited every time you see a golden beam of light pop out of a chest, because there's always a chance for something even crazier. The writing and humor also give the game so much personality. The characters are absolutely unhinged, and the dialogue is full of sarcastic one-liners, pop culture jokes, and just straight-up nonsense. Handsome Jack, the main villain, is both hilarious and genuinely cruel, making him one of the most memorable antagonists in gaming. You'll love to hate him, and by the end, you'll probably want to play through again just to hear all his lines.
Kill the Vault Hunter. We've got a date.
But the reason Borderlands 2 keeps you hooked for so long is the progression loop. You'll level up, unlock new skills, and customize your build, making every character feel different. Whether you're spawning turrets with Axton, phasing through enemies with Maya, or going full melee psycho with Krieg, the game stays fresh even after multiple playthroughs. And then there's the DLC, which is just as good, if not better, than the base game. Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep is probably the highlight, turning the whole game into a Dungeons & Dragons style fantasy adventure, with with skeletons, wizards, and dragons, all narrated by Tina herself. It's funny, creative, and surprisingly emotional by the end. If you're aiming to see everything, including the story, side quests, and all the DLC, you're easily looking at 150 plus hours of gameplay, and if you decide to go for New Game Plus or grind for the best loot, you could sink even more time into it without getting bored. So if you're into fast-paced FPS action, a ton of loot, and a game that doesn't take itself seriously, Borderlands 2 is 100% worth playing. It's funny, chaotic, and endlessly replayable, and it'll keep you busy way longer than you expect.
Somebody delivered a beast!
Metal Gear Solid V: The Phantom Pain. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain is one of those games where you'll load it up just to do a quick mission and somehow end up sinking 5 hours into it without even realizing. It's not because of some crazy non-stop action, in fact most of the game is pretty slow and methodical, but it's the freedom and flexibility that keeps you hooked. Every mission is basically a massive playground, and there are so many ways to approach it that you'll keep coming back just to mess around. The core gameplay loop is what makes it so addictive. You'll be sneaking into enemy bases, knocking out guards, and extracting soldiers, vehicles, and even animals back to your base, and thanks to the open-ended level design, you can tackle objectives however you want. You can go in guns blazing, clear the place out with airstrikes and rocket launchers, or take the slow, stealthy route, marking every enemy with your binoculars and picking them off one by one. There's no right way to do anything, and that's what makes it so fun. Every mission feels like your own unique story, and the tools you have make the game stupidly fun to experiment with. You'll unlock tons of weapons, gadgets, and vehicles, but the real star is the Fulton recovery system. You can strap a balloon to literally anything, guards, trucks, machine gun turrets, goats, and watch them get yanked into the sky while they scream in confusion. It never gets old. But what really sucks you in is the base building and management. Every time you extract a soldier or vehicle, they get sent back to Mother Base, which you can expand and upgrade. You'll be recruiting specialists, improving your R&D department, and developing better weapons and gear. It gives the game a weirdly addictive strategy layer, where you'll keep doing side ops just to bring in more elite soldiers or rare resources. And while the story itself is a bit disjointed, it's still packed with classic Metal Gear moments. You've got over-the-top boss fights, dramatic cutscenes, and weird, creepy supernatural elements mixed with gritty military realism. Even if you don't fully understand the lore, because let's be real, who does, you'll still get swept up in the emotional moments and Kojima's signature brand of bizarre storytelling.
Pull the trigger.
Divinity Original Sin 2. Sin 2 is a massive creative RPG where you can do pretty much whatever you want, and the freedom is kinda ridiculous. You can fight your way through problems, talk your way out of them, or just murder everyone, including people who are actually important to the story, and somehow the game keeps going like it's totally fine with your chaos. The first thing that'll pull you in is the combat. It's turn-based, but doesn't feel slow or boring at all. Instead, it's like a puzzle where you have to think ahead and use your surroundings smartly. You can set oil on fire to block enemies, freeze water to make them slip, or zap a poison cloud with lightning to create a huge explosion. The game rewards creativity, so you'll spend way too much time testing out weird combos just for fun. And honestly, some of the best moments are when your dumb idea actually works, like teleporting an enemy into a lava pit or charming a chicken to peck a boss to death. But the real hook is the freedom in how you play. You're not stuck on one path. You can side with whoever you want, or just betray everyone and become a total menace. You can sneak into castles by turning into a barrel, or convince NPCs to fight each other just to save yourself the trouble. The game lets you be clever, and it makes you feel smart when your crazy plans work. And the world itself is packed with stuff to do. You'll stumble into hidden caves, secret treasure, and entire side quests just by wandering off the main path. You might run into a talking squirrel, on a skeleton cat, a man who thinks he's already dead, or even possessed chickens plotting revenge. The game is full of weird, funny moments, and it never takes itself too seriously. But it's not just goofy, the characters and story are genuinely emotional too. You'll meet complicated companions like Lozy, who's possessed by a demon and slowly losing herself. Or Sibyl, a former slave seeking revenge on her master. You'll care about their stories and actually feel bad when you mess up their quests. And the choices you make actually matter. You can be kind, cruel, or somewhere in between, and the game remembers everything you do. And if you're into role-playing, this game will eat your life. You can create your own character with a custom backstory, or play as one of the origin characters, each with their own personal quests and unique dialogue. And the best part, you can play it all in co-op with a friend. The game doesn't hold back. If you and your buddy disagree, you can literally backstab each other mid-quest and ruin the entire plan, which somehow makes the game even more fun. Days Gone. Days Gone is one of those games that sneaks up on you. At first, it just seems like another zombie game, but the more you play, the more you realize it's way deeper than that. It's not just about fighting off freakers, zombies, it's about surviving in a brutal world, holding on to hope, and watching your character slowly break and rebuild. And because the game is huge and packed with things to do, you'll probably spend over 100 hours without even realizing it. The open world itself is what pulls you in. It's grim, lonely, and strangely beautiful. You'll be riding your motorcycle across forests, mountains, and abandoned towns, and while it looks peaceful at times, you're always one bad decision away from disaster. You'll run into ambushes, traps, or massive freaker hordes, and you'll have to think fast or get absolutely wrecked. The game constantly keeps you on edge, making every ride feel dangerous but exciting. And man, the freaker hordes are no joke. The first time you stumble across one, you'll probably panic and run for your life. These aren't your typical slow zombies. They're fast, aggressive, and absolutely relentless. The game doesn't ease you into them either. You'll be minding your own business and suddenly hear hundreds of freakers screaming in the distance, charging at you like a tidal wave of death. It's terrifying and thrilling, and even when you're powerful, they never stop being a genuine threat. But it's not just about the action. The story and characters actually hit surprisingly hard. You play as Deacon St. John, a drifter and biker who's haunted by the loss of his wife. At first, he comes off as cold and reckless, but as the game goes on, you see his layers. He's loyal, vulnerable, and genuinely broken, which makes his journey really personal. The relationship between Deacon and his best friend Boozer is easily one of the highlights. Their brotherly bond feels real, and watching them struggle with loss, hope, and survival makes the story surprisingly emotional. And let's talk about the crafting and survival mechanics, because that's where the game really shines. You'll scavenge for parts, craft molotovs, traps, and ammo, and constantly repair your bike. And your bike? It's basically a character of its own. You'll upgrade it, paint it, and treat it like your lifeline, because without it, you're screwed. Running out of gas in the middle of nowhere is genuinely terrifying, especially when you're low on ammo and surrounded by freakers. The game's also packed with side content. You'll clear out enemy camps, hunt for collectibles, and take on side missions that sometimes feel just as meaningful as the main quest. There's also a real sense of progression. As you upgrade Deacon's skills and your gear, you'll go from barely surviving to taking on entire hordes like a total badass. Dragon Age Inquisition. Right from the start, the game makes you feel important. The sky rips open with a giant magical tear called the Breach, and demons start pouring into the world. It's basically magic apocalypse time. And guess what? You, just some random person, end up with a magical mark on your hand that can close these rifts. Now suddenly, everyone decides you're the chosen one. No pressure or anything. You're put in charge of the Inquisition, a group that's supposed to stop the chaos and save the world. And somehow, you're expected to fix everything while still being broke and getting attacked by bandits. The world is absolutely massive. You'll explore forests, snowy mountains, deserts, and even swamps, and each place feels totally different. The coolest part is, it doesn't feel empty. You'll constantly find things to do, like hidden treasures, secret dungeons, or random events that make the world feel alive and unpredictable. You'll be riding through the countryside thinking you're heading to a main quest, but you'll get distracted by a cool looking ruin, and suddenly you're doing side quests for 3 hours. Now let's talk about the combat, because it's actually really fun. You can play it like an action game, controlling one character and fighting in real time, or you can pause the battle and give commands to your whole team. This makes fights feel way more strategic. And the best part, the game lets you experiment with different builds. You can be a sword-swinging tank, a stealthy rogue, or a mage who zaps enemies with lightning. Plus, as you level up, you unlock special skills that make your character feel more powerful. It's super satisfying when you finally take down a dragon after carefully planning your attacks. Speaking of choices, This game is all about them. You'll make huge decisions that actually change the world around you. You might side with one faction over another or choose who lives and who dies. And the game remembers what you did, so you'll see the consequences of your actions later on. You'll want to replay it just to see how different choices play out.
It grows larger with each passing hour.
Stalker 2: Heart of Chornobyl. Stalker 2. Heart of Chornobyl is one of those games that'll mess with your head in the best way. It's grim, unpredictable, and constantly stressful, but somehow you'll love every second of it. You'll be wandering through the radioactive wasteland, scavenging for supplies, and stumbling into horrifying anomalies, and before you know it, hours will fly by. It's the kind of game where you'll be on edge the whole time, but you'll keep coming back for more. The game is set in the Chornobyl exclusion zone, a massive area crawling with mutated creatures, dangerous factions, and bizarre anomalies caused by the radiation. And the coolest part, the world is completely open. You can go wherever you want, but you'll constantly feel unsafe because anything can kill you. One second you're looting an abandoned house, and the next you're running for your life from a mutant dog pack or barely escaping a gravity anomaly that's trying to crush you. The game nails the feeling of being vulnerable in a harsh, unforgiving world. And man, the atmosphere is on another level. The zone is so beautiful. You'll see crumbling villages, foggy swamps, and eerie forests, and even though it's all falling apart, it somehow feels so real and lived in. The weather constantly changes, making the world feel unpredictable. One moment it's clear, and the next you're caught in a radiation storm with lightning crackling through the sky, forcing you to run for cover or risk dying on the spot. It's tense, immersive, and terrifying in the best way. Now, let's talk about the survival mechanics, because this game doesn't hold your hand. You'll need to manage your hunger, radiation levels, and injuries. Getting shot or bitten by mutants, you'll have to treat the wound or bleed out, and the supplies are scarce, so you'll constantly be scrounging for food, ammo, and medkits. It makes every encounter feel meaningful because wasting supplies on a random shootout might leave you screwed when you run into something worse. The combat itself is brutal and realistic. The guns feel weighty and unpredictable, and even a simple firefight can go sideways fast. The enemies are smart and relentless. They'll flank you, take cover, and use the environment against you. And because you're not some overpowered action hero, every fight feels tense and risky. One bad decision, you're dead. But the real wildcard in Stalker 2 is the anomalies. These are mysterious, supernatural phenomena scattered throughout the zone. You'll run into gravity distortions that rip you apart, or electric storms that fry you instantly. And then there are the artifacts, which are rare and valuable objects hidden in anomalies. They give you powerful perks, but getting them means risking your life, since you'll have to carefully navigate through deadly traps just to reach them. But here's what really makes the game special: the zone feels alive. It has a dynamic, unscripted AI system, so mutants, factions, and random events happen whether you're there or not. You might clear out a camp only to come back later and find it taken over by a rival faction. Or you'll be exploring a quiet forest and suddenly see a pack of wild mutants chasing down a group of NPCs. It makes the world feel unpredictable and dangerous no matter where you go. If you're aiming to explore every inch of the zone, you're looking at 100 plus hours of gameplay. The main story alone will take you 30-40 hours, but with all the side quests, random encounters, and exploring, you'll keep getting pulled back in. Yakuza 5. Yakuza 5 is the kind of game where you'll sit down for a quick session and suddenly it's been 6 hours and you're running a taxi service, managing a ramen shop, and somehow also fighting a bear. It's massive, unpredictable, and filled with so much content, you'll constantly find yourself sidetracked by random activities and you'll love every second of it. The story is wild and ambitious. This time you're not just playing as Kazuma Kiryu, you'll also step into the shoes of 4 other characters, each with their own unique fighting styles and personal stories. Kiryu, who's trying to live a quiet life as a taxi driver, gets dragged back into the crime world when the Tojo clan's troubles resurface. And then there's Taiga Sayajima, the hulking beast of a man who fights his way through the snowy mountains, literally brawling with a frickin' bear at one point. You also play as Shun Akiyama, the smooth-talking loan shark with fast, flashy combat moves. And finally, Tatsuo Shinada, a washed-up former baseball player who gets tangled up in a conspiracy as he tries to clear his name. But the most surprising twist? You also play as Haruka, Kiryu's adoptive daughter. Instead of punching thugs, she's chasing her dream of becoming a pop idol, which means her entire section is a rhythm-based dance showdown. It's a huge departure from the usual Yakuza action, but somehow it's still ridiculously fun. You'll be competing in dance battles, winning over fans, and training for the big stage, all while getting caught up in shady industry drama. The combat in Yakuza 5 is better than ever, with each character bringing their own style. Kiryu is the all-around powerhouse, able to chain combos and pull off brutal heat actions. Saejima is slower, but hits like a freight train, smashing through groups of enemies. Akiyama's fast, acrobatic style lets you juggle enemies mid-air, making him feel super slick. And Shinada, his wild, scrappy fighting is surprisingly fun, with grappling moves and baseball bat skills that make him stand out. But what really makes Yakuza 5 special is the insane amount of side content. You'll easily spend dozens of hours just goofing off and having a blast. You can race taxis with Kiryu in full-on street racing showdowns, go hunting in the snowy wilderness with Saejima, tracking and taking down wild animals, enter dance battles as Haruka, where you'll face off against rival idols in rhythm game-style duels. And also, you'll explore 5 massive locations, each with its own vibe and activities. You've got Kamurocho's neon-lit streets, Nagoya's rougher edges, and the snowy, quiet town of Tsukimino, which gives off some serious Yakuza meets Silent Hill vibes. The Long Dark. The Long Dark is one of those games that quietly sneaks up on you, and before you know it, you're completely obsessed. You'll start off just trying to survive for a day or two, and suddenly it's been 15 hours and you're carefully rationing your last can of beans while hiding from a pack of wolves. It's slow, methodical, and brutally realistic, but somehow impossible to put down. The game drops you into the frozen wilderness of Canada after a mysterious geomagnetic event shuts down all technology. No cars, no phones, no help, just you, the freezing cold, and nature trying to kill you. You're not some super soldier or action hero, you're just an ordinary person, which makes every small victory feel massive. Finding a single can of soup or a worn out pair of gloves feels like winning the lottery, because everything in this game is out to get you: the weather, the wildlife, and even your own poor planning. The atmosphere is absolutely haunting. The world is quiet, eerie, and lonely. No music, just the howling wind, the crunch of snow under your boots, and the distant howl of wolves that immediately makes you clutch your rifle a little tighter. The visuals are simple but beautiful. The stylized, painterly art style makes the world look like a frozen painting, with vibrant sunsets, frozen lakes, and snow-covered forests. But don't let the beauty fool you, this game is downright merciless. The survival mechanics are the real star of the show. You'll need to constantly manage your temperature, hunger, thirst, and fatigue, and every decision feels like it matters. Do you risk crossing a frozen lake to reach a cabin, or do you play it safe and stick to the forest, even though it'll take twice as long? Do you eat your last candy bar now, or save it for when you're truly starving? The game never holds your hand, it just throws you into the wilderness and watches you struggle. And the wildlife? Oh man, it's not here for decoration, it's here to end you. Wolves will stalk you relentlessly, and if you get too close, they'll rush you without hesitation. If you survive the fight, you'll probably still bleed out unless you patch yourself up fast. And then there are the bears, which are just terrifying. The moment you spot one in the distance, you'll start planning your escape route, because you definitely don't want to run into one without a rifle. But it's not just about fighting to survive, it's about adapting and thriving. You'll learn to hunt deer, set traps for rabbits, and carefully craft clothing from animal pelts to stay warm. You'll scavenge abandoned cabins, carefully search cars, and loot whatever supplies you can find. And the longer you survive, the more self-sufficient you become. You'll start building makeshift shelters, repairing clothes, and cooking meals over a fire. It's slow, deliberate survival, and that's what makes it so addictive. The game also features a story mode called Wintermute, which adds more structure and character-driven narrative. You play as Will Mackenzie, a bush pilot who crash lands in the wilderness after the mysterious event. As you search for your missing passenger, you'll explore the frozen landscape, meet other survivors, and uncover the secrets of what caused the event. The story is emotional and atmospheric, but the real star of the game is still the survival experience itself. Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning. At its core, Re-Reckoning is a full-blown action RPG with fast, fluid combat and tons of customization. You play as the Fateless One, a character who was literally brought back from the dead and freed from the bonds of destiny, which basically makes you a wild card in a world where everyone's fate is predetermined. The story follows your journey to unravel the mystery behind your resurrection, while also battling against the Tuatha, an evil, immortal race that wants to wipe out everyone else. It's a solid fantasy tale, but the real fun is in the freedom the game gives you. And speaking of freedom, the combat is where Amalur truly shines. It's fast, responsive, and ridiculously fun, even by today's standards. You're not locked into a single class, which means you can mix and match playstyles on the fly. Want to smash through enemies with a greatsword, then snipe them from a distance with a bow? Go for it. Prefer dual daggers and sneaky stealth kills, but also want to throw in some powerful magic spells? You can do that too. The game encourages creativity, and the combat animations are incredibly slick. Every swing, block, and dodge feels weighty and impactful. The skill trees give you tons of room for experimentation. You can focus on pure warrior, rogue, or mage builds, or create hybrid classes by combining skills. And the game rewards you for mixing things up. For example, if you level up both might and sorcery, you can unlock special abilities that let you teleport behind enemies and obliterate them with magic-infused melee attacks. It's deep, flexible, and addictively fun, especially when you find that perfect build. But it's not just the combat that makes the game so engaging, it's the world itself. Amalur is bright, colorful, and massive, with tons of unique regions to explore. You'll roam through lush forests, glowing crystal caverns, and sun-drenched plains, each with its own visual flair. The world is packed with side quests, and while some are your standard fetch this or kill that tasks, a lot of them surprise you with fun twists and memorable characters. And then there's the loot system, which is downright addictive. You'll constantly find better weapons, armor, and magical trinkets, making exploration feel rewarding. The crafting system is also surprisingly deep. You can create your own weapons and armor, socket gems for buffs, and tweak your gear to fit your playstyle. It's the kind of game where you'll spend hours just min-maxing your equipment and tweaking your build. The factions and lore add a lot of depth to the world. You can join different factions like the Fey Court, the mercenary-like Warsworn, or the mysterious Scholia Arcana, each with its own storyline and perks. The faction quests often feel just as compelling as the main story, sometimes even more so. You'll get wrapped up in their conflicts, making tough moral decisions that shape your place in the world. Now, let's talk about the real-time sync, the sheer amount of content. The main story alone will take you around 30-40 hours, but if you dive into the faction quests, side missions, and exploration, you're easily looking at 100+ hours. There's so much to do that you'll constantly find yourself getting sidetracked, whether it's by hunting rare creatures, looting hidden caves, or grinding for better gear. Nioh 2: The Complete Edition. Nioh 2 is the kind of game that'll beat the crap out of you over and over again, and somehow you'll keep coming back for more. It's brutal, fast-paced, and insanely rewarding, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be slicing through yokai like a total badass. With incredibly deep combat, tons of build variety, and hundreds of hours of content, this game will keep you hooked way longer than you expect. First off, the setting is awesome. You play as a half-human, half-yokai warrior, caught in the middle of a supernatural war during Japan's Sengoku period. The story is loosely based on real historical events, but with a dark mythological twist. You'll fight alongside famous figures like Tokichiro Toyotomi Hideyoshi and Oda Nobunaga, but instead of just dealing with rival clans, you're also facing deadly yokai demons that are tearing the world apart. Now let's talk about the real star of the show, the combat, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's fast, fluid, and insanely customizable. You've got tons of weapons to choose from, each with its own playstyle and skill tree. Whether you're dual-wielding katanas, crushing enemies with an enormous odachi, or picking off foes with a spear, every weapon feels unique and satisfying. But the real twist that makes Nioh 2 stand out is the yokai abilities. Since your character is part yokai, you can transform into a demon mid-fight, pulling off devastating special moves and turning the tide of battle. You'll also absorb the souls of defeated yokai, allowing you to use their abilities. So if you slay a fiery Oni, you can steal its flame attack and turn it against the next horde. It's ridiculously fun and adds tons of variety to every encounter. The stance system is another layer that makes the combat feel super tactical. You can switch between 3 stances, high, mid, and low, on the fly. Mastering the stances and learning when to switch is key to surviving, especially during boss fights. And oh man, the bosses, they are no joke. Each one feels like a massive hurdle. They're fast, aggressive, and unforgiving, forcing you to stay sharp and react fast. You'll fight giant, screen-filling demons, sword-wielding samurai, and nightmarish yokai creatures that hit like freight trains. But when you finally take them down, it's one of the most satisfying feelings ever. But combat is only half the fun. The RPG systems and build customization are just as addictive. You'll be constantly finding new gear, upgrading weapons, and tweaking your build. The loot system is endlessly rewarding with tons of rare and legendary gear that comes with random stat bonuses, encouraging you to experiment with different setups. You can lean into heavy armor for tankiness, go light for speed, or focus on elemental magic for ranged power. And then there's the level design, which is absolutely fantastic. The maps are huge and interconnected with hidden paths, shortcuts, and secrets everywhere. You'll constantly be rewarded for exploring, whether it's stumbling upon a hidden shrine, finding rare loot, or unlocking a secret boss fight. The environmental storytelling is also top-notch. You'll see burned out villages, overgrown temples, and crumbling fortresses, all filled with clues about the world's downfall.